We are going to now switch gears into retreat training as far as what to do in setting up the logistics of your actual retreat. So we're not going to talk about content right now. We're just going to talk about what do you do if you want to do a retreat, a place, all the different pieces. We've got about 6 pieces we want to talk to you about today. And Ingrid and I are going to kind of do it in tandem. So she's going to mainly be the one teaching, and then I'm just going to throw in some things and kind of like keep moving it forward as far as little pieces that we want to make sure you guys know. But the first and foremost thing that we're going to start with, we're going to talk about place, meals, travel and transportation, pre-retreat, atmosphere and environment, and then the wrap up at the end of the retreat. So that's what you got to look forward to today. So just to introduce the whole retreat thing, we want to talk about principles and practices. So if you could, keep that DTL lens, we are not just trying to, hey, let's just throw a retreat and let's make some money and let's get some women in there. That is not what our retreats are about. And I'm guessing that's not what your retreats are going to be about. I feel like those basic core values and principles are, you are looking for certain women. And as disciple thought leaders, you are trying to find those certain women that want to hear those value-based thoughts that you have to share and be able to do it in a way that is your particular fingerprint. It's your particular personality or your purpose that you're fulfilling, and being able to find your certain women. You ladies are our certain women, and we are still looking for those certain women that we help them fulfill their purpose. So as you listen today, I ask you to consider those umbrellas, the principles and practices. Start thinking in your mind's eye, the end from the beginning. What do I want this retreat to look like? What do I want this retreat to be? What do I want it to feel like? The overarching thing for our retreats, where we were wanting to create an environment of love, learning, and light. And our whole purpose was to create this environment and to prepare it, to prepare ourselves, to prepare the place, to prepare the content, to prepare the food, to prepare everything, to have a profound spiritual experience and an up level, so that everyone who came would be prepared as well. And then everyone would be in an environment, that field of dreams feel of, if you build it, they will come. And if they come, they will have a powerful, profound spiritual experience and shift. So I want you to consider, what are the overarching principles that you want to achieve in your retreat? What's that driver? What's that goal? What's the umbrella? We would make decisions and we'd say, okay, what kind of place are we looking for? Well, does it provide an atmosphere that creates that connection, that light, that love, that place that's going to be the seedbed for this spiritual experience? Everything that we went through, meals and the way that we go about it and the content, that's what we had that eye for, of how it can provide that. So I really want you to consider that end from the beginning and your driver, because we could talk about logistics all day long, but it will shift the logistics and how you go about it when you have that core driver in place. When you can say to yourself, I know what I ultimately want from this retreat. When those women leave, I want them to feel this way. I want to have become this, and I want them to have learned this. When you can say those things, then you can work backwards and say, no, we're not. We looked at different places. We're like, nah, that's not going to fit that. We need a place that's going to be more like this. So these are the things that we want to talk about today, but I really want to make the point. It's not just about A+B checklist, that kind of a thing. Even though Ingrid did a lot of to-dos and seeming tasks, this woman is so genuinely talented and zone of genius in being able to do logistics, but with heart, logistics, but with the spirit. That's the kind of thing you want to do when you're approaching logistics. You want it to be that it's a combination. It's a yin yang of, yes, we're doing these logistical things, but it's the purpose of it is to fulfill this overarching principle and core values. Does that make sense? So Ingrid, let's get started. We're going to start right down the way. You tell us what you want to start with, and then we'll just keep on going.
Okay. So great to see everybody. This is so fun. And I love that Lamira said her thing was community of women, and here it is. I love that manifested, and that's so what this is, and what a blessing to know you all. So, okay. Like Connie said, we decided the environment that we wanted to create, and we let that influence everything that we did. Like the whole purpose of the retreat. My notes said that we want the women to feel loved, nurtured, cocooned, have their needs met so that they could relax and focus on their purpose for attending the retreat. So they're not worried about what am I going to have for lunch, or, oh, I'm starving. Are there any snacks? Like, you want it just there for them before the need comes. So it's anticipating the needs, making sure that it's comfortable, making sure that there's the right degree of privacy versus connection. And so a lot of little things like that. So first we'll talk about lodging. And I would recommend that you try to find your lodging a few months in advance. Don't wait on that. Get that done ASAP. I would suggest 3 to 4 months in advance, if at all possible. And then if you know you want to use that place again, if you're going to do another retreat, then book it right away. We were looking for something that was a little bit away from like the hustle and bustle of a city or something. We wanted to feel a little away. We ended up really away. That was away. Not too far of a drive though, which was nice. It wasn't, 2 hours into away. It was close enough, but I think it worked out pretty well. So look on Airbnb or VRBO and decide. You should already decide how many people you want to have attend. So that gives you an idea of how many beds you're looking for. There can be a shared bedroom or shared bathroom situation. And the more private rooms with bathrooms, with a private bathroom that you have in a home, the price is going to go up. So you might see on your searching, like, oh, I'm looking for a place that sleeps 15. Well, that might include a bunch of hide-a-bed couches. And so you just need to kind of dig and look to see that what you're finding is matching what your purpose is. Does that make sense? So we had some shared bedrooms and some private bedrooms, and it worked out pretty good to also fit into our price point that we were working with. Having enough bathrooms is important. There may be places that sleep enough people but have a low number of bathrooms. So just be careful in your looking and pay attention to that, because if you find a place that sleeps 15 and it only has 2 bathrooms, you're in trouble. So I would recommend, if possible, that you visit your location in advance. Sometimes that means that you're messaging the host on the rental website and saying, is there any possible way I could sneak in there, offer to come at a time that's convenient for that person and not just you? Like, I know you're going to be turning it over and there's guests in there every day, but somewhere in between there's a housekeeping. Say, could I come when housekeeping is there and just kind of see through the mess of change sheets and piles of linens on the floor and garbage and brooms, just to get a lay out your eyeballs on the situation. That's super helpful. And that also gives you the opportunity to drive there in advance and note anything that might help people when they're trying to find the place. Like a certain landmark or something. I know we all have GPS on our phones, but having like a visual thing, like, oh, you turn left at the old barn, that doesn't show up on Google Maps, but can be a really helpful thing. So Connie, is there anything you want to add?
I was just saying, when it's so important to go see the place, I'm kind of efficient. I'm like, well, good, look it up and then just get reviews, blah, blah, blah. But I'm so glad we did, because some of the places just didn't have the right feel or they didn't look the same as the picture and things like that. So it is really important to do that and find the feel. When we went to the one in Park City, we loved the main floor. The upstairs we weren't super keen about, but it was fine. It was more 80s looking, but it still worked, and it had a lot of bathrooms, a lot more than most other places, and everybody could have their own bed, almost everyone. So yeah, the water was an issue. And on the places, one thing to know is we went in the first time in January and it was like, okay, the power went out, things happened, and we made it work, and it worked out to be actually a beautiful experience, right? And it was wonderful. And we could all just drink out of the one faucet that didn't have the water that tastes so bad. And we're like, okay, great, this is great. In March, we had power go out, we had toilet issues, we had blah, 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 blah. And we were assured that everything would be taken care of. And the people before us left and they had broken the door, all these different things. And we were not made aware of, wow, these are going to be issues like toilet issues and things like that. And they didn't get them taken care of quick. So we won't be going back there. So just be aware, like, every place has their thing and you can ride with it. But when there's 2, 3, 4, power and running water are basics. They're like essential. So anyway, things are going to happen, but really try to think of those things ahead. Wi-Fi, what's the connection up there? That's a huge piece. What's the outlets, because everyone's going to be charging their phones. What are the dishes that are available already up there so that you're not hauling your whole kitchen up there? These are just good questions to ask. We didn't know it was a working farm. We were never told that it was an actual working farm. So actually there were dogs out when we came to look at it. And I said, when the women come, can you please make sure these dogs are in for those 2 hours, because it will freak some of the women out. So they made sure to do that. So it's just these kind of details.
That's fantastic. One other thing is when I went to visit a place in Advance that we were considering, it was beautiful. It had great beds, tons of space, all the things we needed. But it had this weird smell. And I was like, nope, there's no way people are going to be able to focus on their purpose with that distraction. It was way too big of a distraction. And thankfully, I visited in Advance. There was no way you could tell that without seeing the place in person. So I would highly recommend that Advance visit. Does anybody else have any questions on lodging?
Can I ask? Oh, sorry.
Oh, Rochelle, like put her hand up.
Oh, sorry. I just put it in the chat. I was just curious, like, what's your ideal ratio for beds to baths? Like, how many people can really share a bathroom ideally?
I think 3 people sharing a bathroom is probably the most that you would want, just considering morning time of shower and doing hair and makeup. We don't want that taking all morning because we're starting at 8 o'clock with teaching and coaching and things like that. So I would say about 3 would be your max for a bathroom. Lamira, did you want to say something? Anybody else?
Can I ask about rooms, like private rooms versus shared rooms? How do you decide on that? And, should I do more private rooms? Should I do more shared rooms? All shared rooms? How did you decide upon that?
It came down to what was available at the place after we hit a lot of the other priorities. Like having the dining table be able to seat every person was an important priority, because then there's not 2 people at a bar over here in the kitchen and 10 other people at the dining room table all bonding and connecting, and then you have these little loners over here, so it worked out really well. That was one of the things that I kind of look for as I look at the photos on an online listing is, does the dining room table seat everybody or everybody that needs to be there? Connie may disagree, but I would always be like, it's okay if I don't have a seat. And she's always like, no, we want you in there. And I'm like, but I'm just doing the dishes anyway. And she's like, no, sit down. So it worked out well because we had 12 women at both of the retreats that we've held so far, 9 attendees, and then Connie, Lamira, and me. So it worked out really well because we had 12 seats at that dining room table. So I would look at that. But then for the private rooms, it turned out that there were a couple and there was just an upcharge for a private room if someone wanted to request a private room. Connie, do you have any more to add on that?
I like having the option, a couple of rooms that are private, because I think you're always going to have just 1 or 2 people that want to have a private room and they're willing to pay for that, and that's fine. And it doesn't mean they're being dissy on other people. It just means they know their personality and need some time to be by themselves to assimilate. So I think that's always, if you can do it, I think that's always a good thing to do.
And the more private rooms that you have, the price of your venue will go up. That's just kind of a standard thing to expect. Any more questions on lodging? Okay, let's talk about food. Everybody loves food. We tried to aim for, our overarching principle was to keep things nourishing and feeling good while not being too heavy or too decadent, but also kind of healthy and light. So kind of a mix. I think we did okay on achieving that. I felt like things felt good, but not like it was all these rich, heavy meals. And we went back and forth on a lot of ideas before we settled on things. So the idea was to have just a good pampering feeling. And artist dried dishes for me one night when I was washing dishes after much insisting where I kept saying, no, go sit down, like use this time to relax. This is a day you don't have to be in the kitchen. And she was like, no, I want to. And then I was like, oh yeah. In our family, we bond over dishwashing and drying together. So I was like, okay, you can dry the dishes. But for the most part, I like to have things prepared and ready so that people don't have to stress, because we're all women and moms who are preparing meals for other people all the time. And we want it to feel like, here's a chance where you don't have to worry about the meals. Just come and sit down and enjoy yourself, relax and connect with each other. So we use a combination of catered foods, pre-prepared foods from Costco, for example, and then some things that I just prepared on site or prepared at home and brought along. Again, you got to just keep your principle in mind.
I'll just pop it up here to show them just the ideas, because you were starting to share just a little bit of what they were, just to give them an idea.
Yeah, that's great. So we decided we wanted like a signature item. The taste brownie that we put in the swag bags was kind of our signature item. It was a really a fun, like special treat from a special little boutique place. And we wanted that like special feeling. Snacks was a little tricky. Our January retreat and our March retreat were very different what people ended up eating for snacks. So I would recommend a really good variety, but then you will have stuff left over. And when it comes to an event, any event, you have to plan that there will be leftover food, because running out of food is not an option. If there were only 11 chicken breasts and 12 women, that would be a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like if you ran out of food, it would not feel like a good experience for people. It would really affect their whole perception of the event. So always plan for a little extra, and then don't worry that sometimes it kind of feels a little wasteful because you have extra food, but you have to have extra because running out is not an option. So I would just provide a huge assortment of snacks, and then kind of read what people were liking more of and try to put more of those things out. We tried to take allergies into account a little bit. For example, we had some bread with some meals, and we brought some gluten-free bread when there was a person who needed that. There was actually a couple people at one retreat that needed that, and that worked out well. But we also had that second fridge in the upstairs, which enabled people who have a certain thing that they really like, they were able to bring their own, like if it was beverages or a certain protein drink or whatever it was that that people want to have on hand for their own personal use, there was a place for that, and that worked out really well. I would say secure all your catering about a month in advance, and then check where you're doing your shopping and make sure things are available. There were some things that I was hoping to plan on that I went to Costco and said, hey, I can't find this item. And they're like, oh, that's seasonal, we don't have it anymore. So I had to readjust. So make sure that you're kind of on the ball about what's available. And if you have any questions, be sure to ask, because you got to be prepared with a plan if they don't have what you need. Anything you want to add on that, Connie?
I love all this. We also did that survey ahead of time, and we would highly recommend it. We'll have that in the downloads, so that when you send the survey, you can find out what the allergies are, find out what the favorite snack. When we put favorite treats, everyone across the board, I swear, it was chocolate. So we're like, okay, we can't go wrong. If we have different kinds, milk and dark and whatever, then we can't go wrong with that. And we had different ways of doing that. We had some chocolate treats, but then we had like little Ghirardelli. And Ingrid was beautiful about paying attention to interests of people and what they liked, what they didn't like. I think it's good to find a great balance between not catering to every little thing and just inviting people to bring their favorites, so they know they've got their favorite experience. But then also, like we said, with the signature, having something that's a little signature to the experience. So like in January, we had it catered, and they did that lemon cake. It was so good. I was practically like licking my plate. So we definitely made that a comeback in March. We're like, bring on that lemon cake again. So that's kind of a signature now for us. We also learned too that with our signature dessert, now I love taste brownie. Anybody else had that before the retreat? Anybody else knew about it? Most people didn't know. Just Ingrid and I, because she's up in Provo, but they're just the bomb, and they're expensive and they're beautiful. But we realized the way we put it in the swag bag, it just looked like a little homemade brownie, like someone had just made a brownie and stuck it in there. We're like, this is like an expensive, like you better eat every crumb kind of brownie. So the next time we had them put a gold sticker and try to make it look prettier so they could see, wow, this is a signature thing. This is like from imported chocolate and it's been like labored over. So anyway, so find a signature thing. I think that's a really good piece. And then have those snacks out all the time. But Ingrid brought up a really good point, making sure that they're hungry for lunch, but then that they're not hungry in between, but not so heavy. Like we had hummus, and hummus was huge in March. Like hummus and the pita triangles were just like gone in 2 seconds, and the cut peppers and stuff like that, and a yummy veggie board and stuff like that. But anyway, loved having those light snacks so that when we're trying to teach, they're not in like a food or sugar coma.
One other thing too was that we decided we want to have something really nice at the end before everybody departed. And so we got the charcuterie board from a caterer for that moment, and some nice treats to put out so that it ended on a really like, wow, this is awesome note, instead of like, well, I'm going home and it's almost dinner time and I'm kind of hungry and I got this granola bar, but okay. So we try to make it a little special right there at the ending. And then we set some snacks out too that people could take if they had to go catch a flight or something, or if they had a long time before, like a long drive, then you could take some granola bars or some fruit or something with you in the car. So you weren't starving on your traveling. But Lamira noted in the chat, the yogurt was great because the power went out, and then it turned out really nice that we didn't have to cook anything anyway. So phew, got lucky on that one. We should be able to rely on power. That shouldn't be something that we're like, well, maybe we'll have it. That should be a basic amenity that's always standard. Again, so we're probably using that venue anymore. Okay, anybody else have questions on meals?
One quick thing. Oh no, it just went. It'll come. But that we did plan that, like I think you mentioned that we did want the first dinner and, like you said, the last thing. So when they came that first night, when you guys came, we wanted that nice catered dinner because we wanted you to feel that, get a nice full belly, doing your abundance and letting go, and just really just letting down. So I would really she'll probably talk about it more in the swag stuff, but just everything having this feel of welcome. We love you. There's abundance. There's so much good stuff here. Just soak it in, eat it, and be yummy. But again, it was chicken breasts and green beans and roast potatoes. So it wasn't this heavy. We had choices of doing like a cream chicken something or other that was like a casserole thing, and we're like, no. So, just being aware of that helps people to feel clean and be able to feel like that they're able to participate without being so sleepy.
Something I want to add that Ingrid has kind of touched on is that food is so important because you feel taken care of, but at the same time, she picked something that she could do, like make it look, because there's so much to do, like that catering thing. If you are in charge of a retreat, you need to make sure food is taken care of, but that you're not going to be spending all your time on that. And same with Ingrid, like that was what she did. But at the same time, she knew she would need to be able to have it ready, be able to place it, and not feel like she had to spend all day chopping vegetables to cook soup. Does that make sense? So that way she was able to find something tasty and good, but make it look nice. But none of us felt like she just went, to McDonald's and picked up something. So it was thoughtful, but it was also very, what's the word I'm looking for? Convenient, simple,
Doable.
Yeah, efficient.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very efficient. That's the word I'm looking for.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's Connie and I were talking this morning, and I was like, imagine if you, Connie, were trying to teach and put on this retreat and I wasn't there to take care of food and some other things. We were saying that the experience that the attendees receive would be like 1/4 as rich content-wise because of the distraction level that Connie would have. So, so if you're considering putting on a retreat, make sure that you're thinking this through, because even just the amount of time that you have to discuss and learn and ponder and teach and coach and soak in the content of the retreat would be significantly diminished if it was like, okay, everybody, now we're going to make dinner together. Well, that's going to take an hour. Cleaning up is going to take an hour. And if everybody's working on that because there's no one in charge of that, that's a factor that's important. So I don't want to like toot my horn, but there's no way to be both, right? You can't be the full-time stay-at-home mom and the full-time job and the full-time Relief Society president and the full-time PTA president, there's just not enough hours in the day. So make sure you have the right amount of help based on the experience you're trying to create. Does that make sense? Okay, the next thing is
Rochelle has her hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Rochelle, sorry.
Amanda had her hand up too, but I will toot your horn because I was literally, I just have to say, like, I was upstairs at one point having like a little bit of a breakdown and try to do my assignments. And I told everybody afterwards, I'm like, I just need time alone sometimes so that I can process things. Anyway, so I was having a moment alone upstairs, and who like would appear but Ingrid. Here's your lunch, here's your bowl of soup. Like, she literally came, found me, brought me food. Like, it was just, it blew my mind. Like, okay, with everything going on, Ingrid saw that and she was the perfect person to do that. And she, just to add to her point, like, when we're the ones running the retreat, like we need to be available for connection and for processing and for coaching and things like that with the experience, and have someone else like an Ingrid who sees all of the things that are happening and is just like right there when you need it, and just like, here's your bowl of soup. So
thank you. Amanda, did you want to say something too?
Yes. So when you had said about the food, like having more than you need, but not
Amanda,
in a wasteful way, the image that popped into my mind was Christ, and it's everyone full. Yes.
It's a little hard to hear you.
Type it in the chat, and
Yes.
then I'll answer.
Yeah.
I'm
Can you
so
do that?
sorry. Can you type it in the chat? Just, we want to hear it. It's just going in and out and freezing.
I hear you. Can you hear me?
It's really garbly and it's really glitchy.
Man. No, I don't want to.
I don't know if you can see the chat. Can you type it in the chat? Okay. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Yeah, and you could put it in the WhatsApp too, because then we could read it.
Let me put my.
Okay, we'll come back in just a jiffer. We were going to talk a little bit more about like how to set up with how many people in a minute, but I do want to bring up that point and validate what you were saying with Ingrid. Is that me?
I think it's Amanda.
Is it still Amanda? Because she's muted.
Hey, is this better or no?
Ooh, it was better for a second.
But we were talking about, if you do a retreat, your first one especially, do that at least with one other person. So someone who is over the Ingrid stuff, the logistics, the meal, the place, all of that. Just like she was saying, she was getting things set up while I was speaking, and that it was all ready to go. As soon as we're done with our stuff, then we go over to the table and it's all set up. It's beautiful. And she had that ability to be able to make sure everyone was nurtured and taken care of. And that is just as important as the content that we're teaching, that nurturing and that nourishing feeling. So at least one other person, and define those roles and responsibilities. And we will have a list of what those roles and responsibilities are as far as our experience. We will have that in the downloads. Don't worry about that. But we had 3 people, and I'm not suggesting you need 3. And I know a couple of you have talked about maybe doing that. But I was over content, coaching, and connection. And Lamira was over the tech, the tools, and also coaching and connection, so that she was kind of helping me out with that because I just can't do it all on my own, and doing some of that teaching as well. And then Ingrid was over the logistics and things. So when the power went out, we're going to Ingrid and saying, what's up with that? She's like, I've already called in and blah, 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 blah. And we're all doing our thing. We've all got our point people. And when I need to coach with people, then Lamira could be up there. So again, you don't need to have 5,000 people, but I'm just saying, think about those roles and responsibilities, and then you can consider how long of a retreat you want to do. If you want to do a day retreat, an overnight retreat, if you want to do 2.5 days, 2.5 days is going to be much more intense, obviously, than an overnight. However, there's a lot more change and transformation that can happen in 2.5 days than an overnight. Usually an overnight, people are kind of letting down on the Friday night, and then they're open to learning the next day, but it kind of stops at like 3 or 4 weeks. You have to get everybody out and things like that. which is great if it's just, if that meets the needs of what you're looking for. But again, think about the kind of retreat that you want. And again, that end result. What do you want those women leaving doing? Remember, you can always lead them to something else. And we'll talk about that in a second. But consider what that looks like if you need one person, if you need two people, and then make sure those roles and responsibilities are very clear so that everybody knows who's over what. Just a thought.
Fantastic. Super important. Well said. Well described. Thank you. Okay, the next item that we want to address is transportation. We had a document that we sent out that said, fill in like how you're getting there and when you're arriving. Most people drove in their own car. I think there was one situation where two women drove together, but for the most part, people drove their own car and that worked out fine. Do make sure you have adequate parking at your venue, depending on how many people are going to be driving there. You can't have a little 2-car driveway and 10 cars come. So, but it was helpful for us to know who was arriving when. Then when people maybe showed up late, we knew to worry about them. We knew to follow up with them. We were like, oh, this person should have been here by 4 and now it's 7 and they're not here. We got to make sure. I think we made sure before 3 hours had gone by. But you see my point is that we knew who to follow up with, and if people needed help getting down the dirt road or that kind of thing. So we knew who to expect and when. That also gave us a chance to know which rooms had to be ready first. For example, like if we knew someone was arriving super early, we tried to have their swag bag in their room first so that that was ready, you know, those kind of things. Make sure, this is another point for visiting the venue in advance, is that you know how to get there. As the retreat facilitator, you absolutely have to know where you're going and how to get there and not be lost yourself on the way for the first time. So do everything in your power to have yourself well oriented to where it is you're going. And we did put a sign out on the road for the March retreat to help people know where to turn. And one person saw it and we thought I'd blown away because everyone else goes, oh, I didn't see the sign. And then I went out there and there it was, still up on the pole, but apparently we put it in the wrong place. People didn't know what to look for. So good communication, like there will be green balloons on the gate. That's really clear. And you can tell people that so that they know what to look for. Any questions or anything to add, Connie? Anybody have any questions on that
I'm
part?
not sure I understand.
I will just say a thank you to everybody that came to January March retreats. You guys all did a great job with the transportation thing, and you all worked it out and you made it all good and were kind and generous, and everyone got there and it was beautiful. So it really worked very smoothly, and us knowing when you were coming and then you let us know if you were running late or whatever, that worked beautifully.
Any other questions on that? I want to make sure I don't.
Make sure you know your location, so that way, like we realized when we got to the gate that there was going to be no like service from the gate to the farmhouse, right? So that was something I think for us that we learned too, was, okay, we're going to make sure at that March retreat that we know when people are, and we knew how to find them and to make sure that they made it to the gate. So that's why it was important there too. So that was just something just to be aware of, that if you're relying on GPS.
Excellent point. Thanks, Amira. The next thing is we'll address the pre-retreat preparations for things that aren't food and lodging and transportation, such as we send out a suggested packing list. We included a swimsuit on there because we knew we had a hot tub at the venue and we want to make sure that people could enjoy that if they wanted to. So we added a swimsuit on there. There was the pre-retreat survey that had questions about like your favorite treat and allergies and things like that. So just knowing who's coming and if there are any unique needs for anybody, that you're prepared to meet those if that's something that's within your resources to do. So it is a little bit of a question of whether you have a juggling act in trying to handle everyone's needs down to little tiny details, or kind of a balance with like, hey, if you have a favorite caffeinated beverage that you need, bring it, because we're not, you know, providing that. So it's just a matter of knowing who's coming and what kind of details you can learn about people so that you know how to best anticipate needs and make a peaceful, productive event. Any adding, Connie? Is there anybody has a question? Okay.
I have a question,
Oh,
Ingrid.
thanks, Artis.
You're welcome. Happy to do a question because you were so nice and let me do dishes with you. That was so nice. How did you, when you're talking about the pre-retreat, you guys had the packing list, the survey, but you also had all that information that we had to prepare and read ahead, right? And we started working on, our one big thing and all those things. How did you guys prepare that? Because that's a lot of, I felt like it was homework, right, before, but it got us in the mindset. So when we were there, we were ready to go. How would you suggest, or how did you guys put that together, or the talks you picked? How did you do that?
Just so you know, that's content and that's not really logistics. So we are going to address that in the master class that I'm going to teach on the retreat. Excellent question. And that's just more of content and preparing you and the people, the participants for the retreat. So we'll talk about that in the master class.
Yep, you asked that question and I go, no idea. Not my job description, but it's super, super significant to the whole experience. I loved how that was set up. I was amazed when people came and they had tons of clarity already when they hit the ground at the retreat. It was awesome. Super, super cool. I was trying to point at Connie, like, Connie, answer that question. On my screen it works, but I don't know, it might be different here. Okay, last couple items. We mentioned the second fridge, and that worked out really well. Not every place will necessarily have a bonus fridge. You just have, that's a good thing to visit the place in advance, or at least talk to the host and say, what are we looking at? Is there a garage fridge or any other thing like that? We tried to also anticipate like helping people find their room by putting a name tag on the door. I liked name tags here on the shirts when we were first meeting before we all knew each other better. That's something you could consider. It was also handy to have some first aid items with us, and maybe like some cold medicine or things like that. I think we had all been super careful holding retreats during COVID with hand sanitizer and those kind of things. We had masks if people needed those, but just to kind of anticipate, kind of like at home, you have your cabinet in the kitchen that's got all the things for in case there's an emergency or a sickness or a little injury or something, and you want to be able to handle those things. So consider some things like that to have on hand. Connie wanted the little gift bags for everybody to take home with some books and the light up pen that went along with the things she was teaching. So those are some things to keep in mind. I helped a little bit with that. It was mostly Connie and Lamira that dictated the items that went in that bag. And I just helped to buy the packaging items and stuff like that. So that's something to take note that needs to be done. Anything to add on this one, Connie?
This to me goes under that atmosphere and environment. And I think like as you saw with Ingrid, everything that was done with that desire to create this certain atmosphere. So again, I would go back to that, where she even had different kinds of herbal teas because people might be cold at night or they want something, you know what I mean? We'd even consider doing little socks in the bag just for a little thing, not to get lost in the little details. And I would invite you to not get lost in those details because it's a rabbit hole, right? But choose a significant or signature something that makes sense for the message that you're doing in the environment you're trying to create. That's why the lighted pen made sense to us, because we wanted to give you an opportunity to be able to write down those promptings whenever they come to you. So it connected, it made sense. And we wanted to have you be filled with more light. So it was kind of symbolic, which probably nobody was like, oh yeah, I made all that connection. But for us, that made the connection. So all the way through trying to find those personal touches that maybe a lot of you didn't even notice or even know, but you could feel, like you could feel a feeling, and you may not have understood exactly all the details, but that's the love that went into it. So consider those personal touches. Even when Ingrid was laying out the meals, everyone could feel she's putting on her apron. You could feel her love for what she was doing and her love for you. Like, I'm doing this for you because I'm excited to serve you. I don't think there was a single woman that left without feeling that she was being loved and served by Ingrid. And it was that washing of the feet feeling, quite frankly, of you just felt so cared for. And I think that's just a huge thing in setting up your environment. It's not just about get the people in and roll them, get them in the beds, you know, blah, 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 bums and seats, that kind of a thing at all. it's very much you are creating the sacred space in my mind's eye and in our mind's eye. You're creating the sacred space, and it's all layers. It's not just let's pummel them with content and hurry and get them to write it down and hit the ground running. It's this letting women come to a safe space and let down, and then be able to open up to more, and then start to see a vision of who they are or how your content can help them in their lives, and then to practice it and to really apply it. Like we had the mindset stuff with the money mindset from Janae, and the meditations with Wendy, and all of those pieces help these women to be seen as a whole person and address the whole person and help them to be open up to new learning. And that's why people, I feel, were able to shift so fully and so quickly, because we really went through so many things like that, because so many pieces were already taken care of. We didn't have to take a lot of time with that. Then they could open up to the higher learning, the higher things. So that's just my personal feeling. But whatever you do, just it is all about creating that environment and really thinking, what are the little things? What are the ways that we can create this environment that just makes it that people, you women have said to us constantly, like, oh, I keep thinking about January, March. And I can't wait for this reunion retreat because I can't wait for the feel, right? I want that feeling again. So that's the feel that you want. It's not really about the X, Y, and Z content. It's the feel, the whole package when they leave, that they go, I loved that experience. I want that again. Just a thought.
Thanks, Connie. That was some sweet words and beautifully said. Thank you. One last thing on environment and atmosphere is that we had set up that table when you first arrive, and there was a little name tag and there was little sign-ins. We could cover the legal things. And we put a plant there, and there was a picture of Christ, and we tried to make just right when you walk in, like, oh, not like, where am I and what do I do? But like, oh, I'm here, and here's a paper for me to take and a thing I need to look at. And we wanted to have someone there to greet you and welcome you in, and either show you to your room or help direct you. And just a good warm welcome was super important to Connie, and she stressed that a few times. One thing that we added to the venue where we hosted January and March was we brought some fresh flowers, we brought some artwork, we brought some house plants. I think that oftentimes you won't find those live like plants and flowers in a Airbnb, but I think that it helped create the kind of environment that we were looking for: growth, vibrance, fresh, those things added to the overall environment. And it could be one of those details where you're like, nah, don't worry about it. But we felt like it made a little bit of a difference to have something like a fresh plant there on the welcoming table, just to give a nice feeling. And it wasn't a whole lot of trouble and effort on my part. And so I felt like it was worth putting a few plants in a box and bringing them up from my house. Any other questions?
One other quick thought is, when you think about what you want for the women, one of the big things was that we wanted to create connection and a positive feel amongst all of us, because when you can get a whole group of women together, sometimes there can be people breaking off and kind of getting cliquey, or, you know, kind of separating out, especially if they've come with someone they know or whatever. And that's where we did the Post-it notes, and we did the positive Post-it stuff on the fridge, so that people could really look for the good in others and they could really connect quickly. So again, look for some of those sort of, I don't want to say mixer things, but something that you feel like this is going to help the women connect and make friendships easily and simply. Having spaces that people could go and chat so that they can be in 2s and 3s, if at all possible. Those things really matter too.
The hot tub really helps with connection. You get in a couple women in a hot tub and it's good conversation from the get-go. It was really nice. Sounds kind of silly, but it's true. That's all I have, unless somebody else wants to add something or ask. Rochelle, are you putting your hand up?
I was just going to add too, you talked about the connection and stuff. I didn't realize this, and so this is just something to throw out there, maybe think about, but I was getting up every morning and working out, and I didn't know that Jen was getting up and doing Zumba, and I'm like, hi, we would have been doing this together had we known. So anyway, just like opening up a space for that connection so that people are like, oh, that's your schedule, perfect, let's do that together.
Amen. In fact, one of the things we talked about was asking in the survey, does anybody like to do any early morning working out or exercise or yoga or anything? You know, if you do, what are the things that you like to do? And if there's space to be able to do it. I was so bummed that we didn't know that. Jen could have been rocking it with all of us. So yeah, you're exactly right. That would be a really great question. And I just noticed the artist said, how early did you start gathering the women you invited as you were planning the retreat? I started in October talking to people, and we already had it enrolled within a few weeks. It was full. So different times of year, I would say start 2 to 3 months ahead. And again, this will be in the masterclass because we're going to talk about enrollment and what to do with that. But that's a really good time frame. 2 to 3 months, I would say, would be really good because it's not so far down the road that women are like, it's too far away, but it also helps them to feel like, okay, that's coming. I feel like you guys can share your thoughts and feelings. When I was talking to women in October, it gave them a breath of, okay, I can go into the holidays and I can focus on my family because I know I'm taking care of this whole new year in January and I know I've got it covered. So I'm going to be taking care of it then so I can focus on my family now. So that was a really good timing thing, if that helps answer. Oh, and I think Artist was out. Sorry, I just answered that question. Or are you, Artist? Sorry.
Okay, that's all I have.
Did you have any last tips that we didn't cover that were just kind of like overall things that you learned, do's and don'ts or whatever? She was absolutely stellar. She came up with ideas and thoughts and questions that we were like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. So in order to find an Ingrid, I would say pray and fast because that's what I did. And as soon as I was thinking about doing a retreat, Ingrid's name came to mind. And I, at the time, did not remember that she was at the Marriott Business School getting her degree in event planning. I didn't remember that. I just remember Ingrid. She's so sharp and solid and she's joyful and she's fun and she knows how to put on all kinds of events, mother of 9. And now she's got all this extended family. And so I thought about that. And then when we connected, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. And event planning and all of this, it just worked out so beautifully. So I felt it was a win-win, you know, like it was something you love to do and I wasn't like imposing on you. And I think Wendy Jones has had that experience where she's felt led to someone that she wants to have help her with her retreat. And I do feel, you know, especially as we do this as DTLs, ladies, really, really, I know I'm preaching the choir, but I'm just validating it. Partner with him. Ask for those retreat angels. You know they're up there. It's probably your ancestors who are like, love to put on parties. And they're like, oh, we can help her with it. We can help her with it. So I really do feel like that's an important piece. And you want to make sure that when you find that person, that it's a win-win and that they really feel excited about, like that's their zone of genius. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to do this. Because I felt like because it was Ingrid's zone of genius, I felt like she was able to do and put in pieces and think of things that we wouldn't have, that wouldn't have been on a checklist that you would have just handed to somebody, that she really did do all of this with love. And that's, you just can't pay enough for that. That's just, to have someone who could do that is huge. As far as, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just had one other logistical question, which some of the things in the chat would be on the workshop anyway, but the cleanup and the like dealing with leftovers and things that people forgot. I did that. Like, how do you handle that, or what's kind of your system for that? Besides, you know, someone like Lemire holding onto my curling iron for 2 months.
But still got it to you, which was so awesome because, you know, you just had to travel here. But hey, I mean, or we had to travel to Arizona, right? That was good. It was all excuse to go, like, say, hey, for the curling iron.
And hand delivered. Here's your curling iron.
We are a full service place, people. That was actually the last group of what we want to talk about was the wrap up. Ingrid, did you want to talk about that? Because there are some really good things to do, and don't do it all yourself. We're all women, most of us, if it's Latter-day Saint women, they've been to a girls' camp, they've been to activities, they know that everybody just helps out with the cleanup, right? And you just wrap it up. So Ingrid, did you want to share tips on that?
Yes, one thing that we did was all the beds needed to be stripped and all the towels needed to be piled and that kind of thing. And on the first retreat, we didn't really tell everybody that. So then we ended up having to strip some of the beds and stuff like that after everyone had left. But putting a little bit of notice, like, hey, just strip your bed and pile your towels in the laundry room, took 30 seconds for each person, but saved us half an hour of work in trying to get going, which ended up being valuable on the last night in January when it was a snowstorm. when we were leaving. So just having everybody pitch in a little bit. We also said, hey, everybody bring your garbage from your bedrooms and bathrooms to this central location. And that saved us a little bit of work. So just noting the checkout checklist from your host, wherever you rent your venue from, maybe ask for that in advance of going so that you know what to communicate to your attendees. Because you may not see the checkout list until you're already there and they have it like posted on a paper or in a binder, or your host will email it to you during your stay. But I would just ask for that in advance so you know what to expect, and then you know what to communicate to your attendees if you need a little bit of help in just getting out the door when it's over. Did that answer your question? Anything else?
I think in March, it went so slick. Those that were there in March, did you feel that? It was super easy. And we had talked about maybe even just next time having it on a little thing for the door. So it would just be on their door. It would just be, let's strip the bed, put it in the laundry room, make sure you've checked under the bed and in the bathroom for any items, and, you know, and whatever. So that it's just on the door right there. And it's almost like a little checklist for them. So it's super slick. But that really helped a ton. It saved us so much personal time, and everybody, like you were saying, it took them 5 minutes, and it helps so much.
I think we did a sweep of the place before people were leaving. I kind of tried to follow people around a little bit, and I think we ended up with no lost and found items on the March retreat. I think we got almost everything taken care of. I hope I'm right. But I feel like after January, we had a little pile of things that were left over that people had lost and found, and some were quickly returned. Some took a little longer. Some people said, don't worry about it, just throw that thing away. I don't need that thing, or were never claimed. But I think on March, just by having a pair of eyes checking the bedrooms and bathrooms behind people as they left, helped that to not happen.
And I would also say for the wrap up, I would allow for about an hour. Ingrid, you can weigh in on that. But we decided to do our wrap up circle because we wanted to end on that bonding feel and everybody's takeaway that they had, so that they could really cement that in. And we had also let everybody know in the morning at lunch break, can you please go ahead and get your stuff ready, get it in your suitcase, start, you know, doing that stuff of just getting your stuff kind of put together, so that at the end, they're not like everyone's like flying and then people are taking off, but they wanted to hug somebody, but they're already gone. And so I think it's good to give them an advance thing on that lunchtime. Don't do it Saturday morning, because then it makes them feel like, oh my gosh, we're already done, right? So do it at lunchtime, just right before lunch maybe, but just let them know, hey, during this time, you might want to gather your stuff. And then say at 5, between 5 and 6 is checkout. And we're just going to come and check with you and make sure you've got everything you need. And we wanted to make sure and send you off a little snack or something. So we put snacks on the counter before everybody left and said, help yourself, so that they could have, like she was saying, food for the road. Just again, not just like we're done, boot them, but just being able to nurture them all the way out and making sure that everybody got out safe and sound. But I would allow for about an hour to make sure that everything is wrapped up solid, the doors, the lights are out, and everyone's got their cords, and it's all good.
Well said. I don't have anything else. I think that's all.
Connie, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If you're checking out on Saturday night, do you have to rent the place till Sunday morning?
Good question. Good. Ingrid, can I pass it to you? I mean, go right ahead.
Yeah, we did have to request a late checkout. We requested a late checkout from our host. It took a little bit of negotiation because they're missing out on one entire night of rental, which is significant on a big home like that. So we did have to negotiate a little bit with the host and come to an agreement where they were like, okay, we can give you a late checkout. And it was a certain amount extra that we paid, not, you know, a whole night, but a portion. And the host that we had at that cabin said that we were such great tenants, you know, renters, that she was willing to work with us on the next retreat, and she was happy to have us back, which is nice. So make sure you're that kind of guest who they're happy to invite back, and they may work with you on something like that special request of a late checkout, which is definitely something you need to consider, because most places are going to be checkout like 11 a.m. or something.
And it was so worth it. And because things did go so good in January from our side, that they even gave us a better rate for the March one. So I would really push for the late checkout if it's any, you know, possibility. That it just helps so much to be able to not have to hurry out at 2 or 3, but you had a couple of extra hours, and then you could kind of just, we did want everybody to get home to their families and be able to see everybody, love you, and wow, it was a great experience, and then tuck everybody in bed and just have that time with their spouse before the Sabbath. So I would invite, everyone can do it their own way, of course, but I would just invite you to consider that I don't do or don't advocate doing retreats over Sunday, even if you're leaving Sunday morning. It's just a thought. You do it the way you want to, but just for that reason, then everybody gets home, sees family, can recalibrate, and then you can focus on the Sabbath. So it's just something to consider. I did want to show really quickly, this is one of the forms that we'll have in the downloads, but this is it by hours. So it's set up, prep, serve dinner, cleanup, teaching, meditation, and it has it all like color coded because Ingrid and Lamira are amazing, but it will have that in the download. So just so you know, you can use this and just input the other stuff that you want to have in there. So it's just really, really easy for you. But and we kept it kind of like, so it was just not messy. It was just clear. And Ingrid had her schedule and we had our schedule. And the idea was that we would just keep staying on schedule, but then things would shift. But that's okay because we had a basic thing, a foundation we were going from, so that we knew what were the pieces. And that's one thing I want you to know. Things will change. You will have to adjust. Don't get bugged by it. It's okay. That's all. It's flow, read the room and flow with the group. March was so different than January. January's energy was like very type 3-1. It was very high energy. Let's go, let's learn, let's do, and feel the feels. And March was very 4-2. It was very processing and thinking and asking and going deep. But you know what? We kept looking at each other. Lamira and I were like, oh my gosh, like we're not doing what we did in January. We said, we're going with it. We're just going with it. And we're just going to pray that Heavenly Father will magnify time in the Lord's time. And we'll just do what we need to do. And we would be astonished. We'd get ready to break for lunch. And we look at each other and go, I don't know how, we're on schedule. Like, how did that happen? I don't know, but go with it, adjust with it. It's okay. That the food is such an important piece in those meal times. We did an hour and a half for lunch. And at first I was like, it seems like a long time, but you know, we want the women to connect and assimilate and have time to sort of let down and think about what they've learned. And it went like that. Did you guys feel that? It was just so quick. So make sure you have those times for those meals. And even on the Friday night of, you know, after dinner, then it was girls' time and whatever. We'll talk about more of that in the master class. But those meal times, I think, are really important. We did breakfast. Everybody's on their own because everyone wakes up different. Like my kids, some of them I can't even talk to for an hour and a half. But you want to just give breakfast and just let them be, I feel. And that made it easier for us. We're not getting up and cooking a big breakfast. But we kept a simple, easy lunch and then a nice dinner is kind of how we did it. And those meal times were kind of like a really good connecting, bonding time. So, and that whole thing, we'll talk about that in the master class, but allowing every retreat to be its own feel, its own experience. That's a really important piece. And all of these logistics, they're not just on paper, they really make or break that experience. Anything else? We have just a couple of minutes left. Any thoughts? Can we all just give a love to Ingrid for sharing all her wisdom and her amazingness? I literally, there were so many times in each retreat and in between the retreats that myself and then with Lamira, we'd both be like, what would we do without an Ingrid? What would we do without our Ingrid? She just was such the gift and blessing to all of us, and to Lamira and I particularly. It was just such a gift. So thank you so much, sweetie.
Thank you. It's an honor to be part of this. It's great.
You are the best. Mwah. All right, my darlings, we've done great stuff. And I think I just saw the comment from Wendy. Good thing we aren't boozers. Yeah, that's Latter-day Saint women for you. We're just sucking down the chocolate. That's it. Anyway, I just think it's great. And you know what? I will say there is something about Covenant Latter-day Saint women being in a retreat together. I know we've talked about this, but even in my other retreat, they just made a rule in my other IC circle that they asked for there to be no alcohol until the last day when everybody's kind of done and then they kind of go their own ways. She requested that there be no alcohol. Isn't that interesting? So I really think there's like 3 of us that are Latter-day Saints, 4 of us that are Latter-day Saints on there. And I honestly, Pete, I think that we're kind of like helping a few thoughts because I think they're hearing the experiences that we're having, and then they're seeing things that are an obstacle to that. So I just thank you, all of you, for bringing such a high level of spirituality to these retreats that made it possible for all of us to have such profound spiritual shifts and transformations. It was really amazing.